Hey, what's up guys, it's Renaldo here. So this video is going to blow your mind. Because just when you think the government can't implement something worse, they surprise you. Look at the Bella Act, look at NHI, look at the Expropriation Act, and then look at the 145 race-based laws that we have in this country that, according to the government, does not exist. Apparently, there are no race laws in this country, and mainstream media also drives the narrative that there's no race-based laws, even though there clearly is. I would love to hear their answer on the following new amendment bill to the Water Act that they want to implement, because now the government wants to apply race-based laws to the allocation of water. That's right. Now in 2023, they tried to add even more race-based legislation to the Water Act, and that failed miserably because it was exposed. And now, as of the 22nd of January 2026, they are now trying to add another amendment that is clearly discriminatory based on race. Now, the problem, however, is when this is pointed out, the government does not acknowledge it. Now, before we get into the context of this video, please be sure to subscribe to this channel. It's absolutely free. It won't cost you anything. The overwhelming majority of you that regularly watch my content aren't subscribed to this channel, but you can fix that by just clicking the subscribe button below. All right, so let me just jump into it and show you how it was exposed and what the government's response was. So over here you can see Jeannie Maddock on X. It said water allocation based on race, another race-based law on the cards from government ZA, Cyril Ramaphosa and Presidency ZA. I'll jump into what specifically the law talks about there, but there's one thing I want to focus on, and look what the South African government says here. This is incorrect. Water allocation in South Africa is not race-based. Now, as you can see here with the gray tick over there, this is the legitimate South African government's X profile, and they are saying this is incorrect. Water allocation in South Africa is not race-based. Okay, well, I mean, this is relatively easy. Let's just go and look at the act itself. Over there you can see that it's the National Water Act number 36 of 1998. And then I want to take you specifically to section 27, if I can get there. It just takes a while through all the race-based legislation in here. But ultimately, when you get to number 27, you'll see the following. And listen properly now. Considerations for issue of general authorizations and licenses. Remember, this is a water license. Now, it says, in issuing a general authorization or license, a responsible authority must take into account all relevant factors, including existing lawful water uses, the need to redress the results of past racial and gender discrimination. So how does that not contradict what the government just said there when it comes to race-based legislation in their laws? But don't worry, it's going to get, I mean, there are the examples in the Act from 1998, but this is something interesting. So there's a bill that was proposed on the 22nd of Jan, and it's called the National Water Amendment Bill B1 of 2026. And as you can see, this is on Parliament's own website, and it was introduced on the 21st, which means it'll now go to the Portfolio Committee, then National Assembly, then the Select Committee, then National Council of Provinces, and then for assent to the President. But this is what the GNU government has now submitted. And it's very important to note, it's the GNU government, not the ANC government, that's making this recommendation. Now, what's important to take note of here is that this is an amendment act, which means that this adds to the already racialized Water Act of 1998 that has had amendments since then, but it's still called the original Act of 1998. Now, considering that this is a bill that has been proposed by the GNU government, let's have a look at it and see if they've decided to cut out the race-based aspects in it. So this is an amendment bill, which means it still has to be voted on, and there's a lot of things that need to take place. But I would just like to take your attention to two specific parts over here, and that is number 12, that specifically talks, let me just make it a little bit bigger, Section 26 of the Principal Act is hereby amended, and then what they would like to include by the addition in subsection 1 of the following paragraph, prescribing the criteria that must be considered when redressing the results of past racial and gender discrimination in relation to water use. All right, and it gets better. This is what they would like to amend in section 27, the one that I just read previously, in the previous act. It says section 27 of the Principal Act is hereby amended by the substitution in subsection 1 for paragraph B of the following paragraph. So this is what they want to include. Whether the application is a fit and proper person as contemplated in section 27A. Now, what is a fit and proper person? Well, we'll need to find out. And then also by the addition of the following subsections. A responsible authority must, when considering an application for water use authorization, advance the redress of past racial and gender discrimination when making a decision to issue a license or general authorization. A responsible authority, after taking into account the demographic composition of the water users, in particular a water management area, may set aside a certain volume of water in each water management area to achieve the redress contemplated in subsection 3, which I've listed over there. Now, I know what you're going to say. Renaldo, this is an amendment bill. They're trying to adjust things. It doesn't mean that it's already implemented. Well, I've demonstrated to you that the original Water Act has got race-based legislation in it. And then if you look at the amendment bill year of 2026, there is race-based legislation in it. But remember, after the government told us that this is incorrect, water allocation in South Africa is not race-based, then I would like to bring your attention to this document over here. And as you can see, it's from the Water and Sanitation Department. It's an application for a water use license in terms of section 40 of the National Water Act of 1998. You can see, there it is legit. The above mentioned application has been received and processed by the department and forwarded to me for a decision. The donor, and by the way, the things are blacked out to protect the two people involved. But the donor is a historically disadvantaged individual, meaning it's a black individual that's willing to give his license to a white individual. And listen to what they say here. Is a historically disadvantaged individual who has received water from the water set aside for HDIs in the river. The receiver is a historically advantaged individual, and that's why I'm saying he's a white person. The water being transferred is amounting to, and then they give the technicalities over there. But listen to this. Therefore, the department is not in support of the issuance of the authorization, as the departmental objectives of transformation will not be met by the issuance of the license. Section 27(1)(b) was not accepted as the departmental objectives of transformation will not be met. However, in terms of section 148(1)(f) of the National Water Act, an appeal against the above decision can be lodged with the Water Tribunal within 30 days. So here you can clearly see a letter that rejects a white person from getting a water license from a previously disadvantaged person, which is a black person, purely because the individual is a white person. But then the government says this is incorrect. Water allocation in South Africa is not race-based. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please explain to me how it is possible that the government can come out on a public platform and say that there's no race-based legislation when it comes to water allocation in this country, but their very own act from 1998 clearly demonstrates race-based discrimination. And then to go even further, the amendment bill that they are proposing in 2026 doubles down on that race-based legislation and discrimination. And then we've got this very famous letter of a previously advantaged farmer wanting to either buy or take over the water license from a previously disadvantaged farmer, which is a black farmer. And then the government comes and says, no, you're not allowed to do that because of the fact that you are a previously advantaged individual. How is that not discriminating against this person purely because of their race? And then the government wants to tell us that there is no race-based legislation in this country. not only that there's no race-based discrimination when it comes to water, which we clearly have seen now that they're blatantly lying about, but then they want to ignore the other 145 race-based legislation in this country. With this, if it's passed, it'll just increase, and yet again, mainstream media will be completely quiet on this because mainstream media doesn't believe that there's any race-based laws in this country. Well, at least the overwhelming majority of them. So at what point will we just start being honest with one another? I mean, why are you lying about this? I thought that you are proud that you are discriminating against white people and getting them back for the injustices of the past, even though the overwhelming majority of white people that live in this country today had nothing to do with apartheid. But yet you want to punish these individuals for the sins of their fathers and their grandfathers, noting that it wasn't even all of their fathers or grandfathers. So stop talking cock is ultimately what I want to say. Say it with your chest. If it's in the legislation, and a blind person can read it through Braille, and a deaf person can hear it if somebody reads it to them, then surely we must acknowledge that it's there. So why don't you take it with your chest and say, yes, we do have race-based legislation in this country, and yes, we will discriminate against you based on the color of your skin. Oh, ignore the fact that during apartheid, we fought against these exact same policies, but oh no, now it's different. We're implementing it now because of restorative justice, even though the people that we are trying to discriminate against in order to restore it for the black people had nothing to do with apartheid. How does it make sense? And how does mainstream media support this and act like it doesn't exist? This is discrimination. This is racism. This is what so many people fought against during apartheid, and yet here it is in 2026. So ultimately, everything that the ANC and the GNU wants to talk about triple BEE, ending it and stopping race-based legislation in this country, clearly with this amendment bill, you can see that no, the GNU is continuing with race-based legislation in this country. And the question that I've got is, at what point in time will mainstream media start talking about it? And that's pretty much all I got to say, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share this video far and wide. And if you enjoy my content and if you enjoy this channel, then please consider becoming a member. It'll cost you R39.99 a month, and that is in support of me and this channel, and it'll be greatly appreciated. And that's all I got to say. Till later, cheers, and peace out.
You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre.